Good morning, students. In the last class, we have completed the last chapter, living organisms and their surroundings. So, now let us start the next chapter, motion and measurement of distances. Okay. Let us try to understand the title of this chapter, motion. What does it mean by motion? Motion is a natural event that causes a change in the position or location of something. That something can be a subject or an object. And what is measurement? Measurement is the act or the process of giving numbers of known unit values to the physical or chemical quantities and phenomena by comparison. This is the measurement. So simply by listening to these definitions, you may not be able to understand what actually that they are. Okay. So let us go little in detail about motion and measurements. First, let us take motion. Motion means change in the position of something or change in the location of something. That is motion. Whenever we think of motion, we generally don't consider much about change in the position of something. Generally, we think more about change in the location of something. That is moving from one place to another place, which we also call as transport. How does this transport has changed over a period of a long time, from ancient periods to present periods? How does this transport got changed? Long ago, in ancient times, there were no vehicles. So there was no means of particular transport. So people used to move from one place to another place on their foot only. And they used to carry their goods also either on their back or on the back of animals, like on the back of camel, on the back of donkey, on the back of horse, right? Like this, they used to carry their goods. So that is on the land. That is on the land. And there was the transport that was carried out even on the water also during the ancient times. How do they use to travel on the water? People used boats along water routes. So boats were there from ancient time onwards. And ancient boats were simple logs of wood in which a hollow cavity could be made. In that cavity, one or two people can sit, not many people. And using some pedal like thing, they used to make the boat to move on the water. So in the ancient times, people have made the boats using simple logs of wood. So only one big log of wood in which cavity was made. Next level, boats were made using different pieces of wood together and making the boats in the shapes of aquatic animals so that they can make little bigger boats. If single large sized piece of wood is used to make boat, even though the piece of wood is very large, it can make a small boat only. If many different pieces of wood were used to make boats, even though each piece may be little smaller, but as many different pieces were used to make the boat, that boat used to become little bigger in size, and a more number of people can travel in that boat. So in ancient periods of time, people used to move only on land and in the water. They could not fly in the air. Okay. So we have discussed the transport of people on the land and in the water before the invention of wheel. And in the history of mankind, invention of wheel, it has changed the civilizations. How? Because it is such a great invention. It changed the modes of transport. As the modes of transports got changed, civilizations could spread from one place to other place very easily. So civilizations also could get changes. So invention of wheel is the great change in the modes of transport. After invention of the wheels, initially animals were used to pull the vehicles which were running on the wheels. And this animal power is utilized until the beginning of 19th century for the transport. Or people were dependent on the animal power. Or people were dependent on the animal driven vehicles on the wheels until the beginning of the 19th century. Then, at the beginning of the 19th century, steam engine was invented by a scientist known as James Watt. The steam engine driven vehicles, they could run on the railroads. So, railroads were made for steam engine driven carriages and wagons. Railroads were made for steam engine driven carriages and wagons. After the steam engine, automobiles were invented. Automobiles means buses, cars, trucks, etc. Right? Means first animal driven, then steam engine driven vehicles, followed by automobiles. They all were developed one by one. But all these animal driven vehicles, steam engine driven vehicles and automobiles, they are all for the transport on the land, right? Then transport on the water, how it got developed? Ancient times, we have learned that wooden boats were constructed. Later, in the developed times, motorized boats, or simply we can say mechanized boats, and ships, they were made for transport on the water, which could enhance the speed of transport even on the water. And there was less usage of manpower. Instead, engine power was utilized to run the boats on the water. See, in the developed time of transport, even the transport entered in the air also. In the early years of 1900, around 1903, Wright brothers, they have invented aeroplane, right? And these aeroplanes later, they were developed for the transport of cargo as well as passengers, both. So in all of the above discussed modes of transport, many developments have occurred in the 20th century. Whatever the modes of transport which we have discussed just now, in all of them, many developments have taken place only in the 20th century. Still, they are going on in the 21st century. What are those developments? In the place of normal steam engine driven rails, electric trains they were developed. Generally, we know that a train will run on two rails, parallel rails. But now, monorail roads also were developed, means the train will run on single rail itself. Of course, they are not there in India, but they are there in certain foreign countries, developed countries. And supersonic aeroplanes. Supersonic aeroplane means the aeroplane which can travel more than the speed of sound. Sound travels at 330 meters per second. More than that speed, the supersonic plane will travel. And spacecraft, not only just moving from one place to other place in the air on the earth itself, people have developed such a type of planes which could carry certain materials even to the space also, from earth to the space, beyond the atmosphere of the earth. Whatever the travel that takes place, that is known as space, space journey. The particular vehicle that carries anything into the space is known as spacecraft. Spacecraft also was developed in the 20th century only. You might have heard of Kalpana Chawla, who is the American that has got the roots of India. She has traveled to the space some 2 times, I think. The second time when she traveled, unfortunately, the spacecraft it got burnt while entering into the Earth's atmosphere, right? And it was a mishap. Not every time that it is going to happen, right? So we have traveled so far by using different types of vehicles. But how to know that how far we have traveled? How to know that what is the length and width of a particular subject or object? And why do we need to know that how far are we going to travel? Why do we need to know that how far are we going to travel? There is a simple answer. It is because to have an idea about how to reach that place. If it is very nearer place, you can go on foot. Little farther, you can use cycle. Little more farther, motorbike. Little more farther, car or bus. Still farther, you can use aeroplane. Means by traveling in the aeroplane, you may move. So by knowing how far that we have to travel, we can decide the mode of the transport, right? If it is near, very near, maybe we can go on foot. If it is far, we may use some particular type of vehicle to reach that place based on the distance. Why do we need to know about the physical dimensions like length and width of an object? Why do we need? If we don't know the physical dimensions like length and width or height of an object, we may not be come to an idea how effectively that we can use that particular subject or object. Okay. So to effectively use that particular subject or object, or to effectively share that particular subject or object, okay, we need to know about the physical dimensions like length and width of an object. People have initially used certain non-standard units of measurement to measure the physical dimensions of the subjects or objects. Can we know what are such non-standard ways of measuring the length or width? Measuring by using gilli and danda, foot or hand span. People initially they used all these type of non-standard units of measurement, with which maybe in a particular location they might have got convinced with the dimensions like length and width. But when the same dimension has to be measured and accepted should be accepted with the value of that measurement in other place, people have got certain confusions and certain problems. What are those problems that are associated with the usage of the non-standard units of measurements? The results from the usage of non-standard measurements could be varying from person to person, time to time, and place to place. They cannot be the same in all the places, from all the persons, and from all the times. They will be varying. They may be varying from person to person, place to place, or time to time. In simple terms, even though we have learnt the definition of measurement as giving the numbers, okay, with the known value of units like that. In simple terms, measurement means the comparison of an unknown quantity with some known quantity. And that fixed known quantity that is used in the measurement is the unit of measurement. Unit means the known fixed quantity that is used in the process of measurement. So every measurement, it contains two parts in it. Part 1, the number, numerical number, and part 2, unit of measurement. Like example, length of a table, 2 meters. Here 2 is the numerical value and meter is the unit of measurement. Using non-standard units of measurements has two problems. Already we have discussed the first one. The results of the measurements may be varying from person to person, place to place, or time to time. And people may not be able to understand clearly about the results of measurements that are carried out using non-standard units of measurements. People cannot be come to a clear-cut idea about the actual result because they vary from one place to one place to another place, one person to another person, and from one time period to another time period, or from one season to another season, since they are non-standard units of measurements. So there are certain problems associated with the usage of non-standard units of measurement. As usage of non-standard units of measurement has got certain problems or certain limitations, standard units of measurement are needed. If a question is being asked to you, why standard units of measurement are needed, then your answer must be usage of non-standard units of measurement has got certain problems. So standard units of measurement are needed. Then what are standard units of measurement? The units of measurement which do not change from person to person, place to place, and time to time are known as standard units of measurement. Okay, we will discuss about these standard units of measurement and other things in the next class. Thank you.